Somebody at Lucasfilm dropped $300 million, approved it on Indiana Jones. And then you look up the budget for Lord of the Rings, the original trilogy, $281 million across 3 movies, and all 3 of those movies look phenomenal. You wanna hear something else?
Wait, there's more.
Star Wars, the original Star Wars trilogy, adjusted for inflation, $280 million across all 3 movies. And then you have Indiana Jones 5, $300 million for 1 movie, and you don't know why. There's a reason why I think a lot of people are starting to move towards companies like Focus Features or A24, like all the indie stuff, moving overseas to a lot of Korean movies. Because with the American stuff, it's so generic and commercial that it's like we don't get anything new anymore. Indiana Jones released, and that is doing terrible. And for good reason. And listen, I think that movies like this should do bad. Not because of the story, but because I think it gives filmmaking a bad look. I could have done some of the CGI myself in the studio.
I can do it myself.
And what pisses me off is that this is Lucasfilm we're talking about, the pioneers of visual effects. And I'm seeing halos from the green screen. We'll do an Indiana Jones review towards the end of the episode, so stick around.
Talk to me, brother. I'm sorry, I didn't watch the movie.
It's all, you don't have to. First of all, one thing that Hollywood needs to fix, somebody at Lucasfilm dropped $300 million, approved it on Indiana Jones. But my issue with it is that it made, over the weekend, about $130 million globally. The reason why it's bad is because you spent $300 million on your movie.
I seen people online, like, oh, Indiana Jones only made a certain amount of million. In my head, I'm like, oh, that's not that bad. But now that you telling me what the budget was, I'm like, okay, that's pretty terrible.
It's losing money. First of all, the budget shouldn't have ballooned to that much anyway. If you said Indiana Jones had a budget of $150 million, I'd have been okay with that. I say that because it's the last hurrah for Harrison Ford. It's a Lucasfilm property. And to my knowledge, Indiana Jones is a beloved character. You know what I'm saying? Problem is that you can't even tell where that budget went towards. It didn't go towards the cinematography because everything was just fucking dark. It didn't go towards the visual effects. But I bring all these numbers up because I think that filmmaking, at least blockbusters, are on a crazy decline.
Pixar's latest Elemental is in theaters now. Now, there are some issues with Pixar that they're not necessarily in control over, like the fact that Disney has been pushing its audience to streaming for years and now is expecting them all to go back to the theaters. But the creative side is under their control. If the story for Elemental had been given a little bit more meticulous oversight, then this could have been one of Pixar's best movies.
Yeah, a lot of it is story, but at the same time, I think it's because there is a lack of love in the film industry right now. There's a reason why I think a lot of people are starting to move towards companies like Focus Features or A24, like all the indie stuff, moving overseas to a lot of Korean movies. Because with the American stuff, it's so generic and commercial that it's like we don't get anything new anymore. And when you look at these past films, as I was watching this movie, I couldn't stop thinking about Lord of the Rings. Like, it's like a masterclass of filmmaking. Everything, like, it is film.
The fact that it still holds up today makes it even better.
And it makes me think, because one thing Ronan pointed out to me, he was like, dude, you know that when they made this movie, they couldn't decide whether or not they wanted to split it up, so they just shot everything and used one budget? And then you look up the budget for Lord of the Rings, the original trilogy, $281 million across 3 movies, and all 3 of those movies look fucking phenomenal. You wanna hear something else?
Wait, there's more.
Star Wars, the original Star Wars trilogy, adjusted for inflation, $280 million across all 3 movies. And then you have Indiana Jones 5. 300 fucking million for 1 movie, and you don't know why.
I still said actors. I think Harrison Ford took at least 150 for himself.
To my knowledge, a lot of these dudes like Peter Jackson and George Lucas, when they made those movies, they specifically made sure to be as far away from Hollywood as possible. They didn't want Hollywood touching their stuff. When you look at George Lucas's Lucasfilm, it says LTD. He wanted it to look like it was an overseas company because it was supposed to be Lucasfilm LLC. That's an American thing. LTD is overseas, European, and he wanted to make it known, I do not fuck with Hollywood. He even got kicked out of the Directors Guild for that reason, because he didn't want to film anything out there. And as I'm looking at these budgets and stuff and knowing in the George Lucas book, it talks a lot about how he managed his finances and how he spent his money. Star Wars is basically the ultimate independent film. Like, that's like the last level of independent filmmaking. And he knew where all this money was going towards. He knew how to make these props, visual effects, the editing, his wife did it. They all got paid, but they knew where the money was going. And budgets like this, where it's $300 million, these dudes are spending the budgets on anything.
We really do need to figure out where all this money goes with these big studios. Cause I hate when people be like, what was the budget for the movie? The CG was bad.
Right.
CG can be great. You need time.
Indiana Jones was a huge disappointment. For example, The Force Awakens was a $245 million budget. And that's just one Star Wars movie. Yes, it's still a ballooned budget. But then I could be like, okay, I can see where that goes. You feel me? You got veterans coming on board. You got new actors coming in. You got a ton of CGI. You're building practical stuff. I could see that budget being that. It's still a lot of money.
Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 and Part 2 had a collective budget of $250 million.
Bro.
But the money they made off that?
I get it. Hollywood's afraid of taking risks right now. Big reason why streaming is a thing, right? People aren't going to the movie theaters as often. It's an inconvenience to do that. But if you want to compete in this landscape, you got to have better stories and stories that are worth going to watch on the big screen. Nope was one of those movies where he said specifically, yo, I want this movie to be something that we go watch on a big screen. Look, if you're afraid to take risks, I can understand that. Because the market is very volatile right now. And I could also blame us as an audience, right? Because what happens is that we also don't go out when it comes to new movies. I want to go watch the new Jennifer Lawrence movie, but I think it made like $50 million so far, which is actually really good, but a lot of people are still not going to go watch it. A lot of studios do need to take a little bit more risk, because one thing I could respect about A24, because I actually admire A24, I'm not going to lie. I think that what Warner Brothers and all these different studios got to get back to is making like those $10 million movies, $20 million movies, those small shits that have a budget, but people can still go out and enjoy and has that property. But now the job is giving it to actual artists and not people that just want to be work for hire. We got our good friend George on the show, master cinematographer. How'd you feel about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny?
Dial of Dementia.
Dial of Dementia. I thought the movie was very boring. It should have just been an hour and 30 minutes. Get in, get out, and move on.
Phoebe Waller-Bridge, her character would have benefited from having a shorter runtime, because I think her character suffered from being insufferable for way too long.
Indiana Jones is not as bad as the internet is making it seem.
I agree. It depends where you're coming from. You know, if you're Indiana Jones diehard, you're not. I don't think you really don't like the movie, because I don't feel like it captures the spirit of what Indiana Jones truly embodied throughout the original trilogy.
You think 300 million was worth it?
I don't think so. I think honestly they spent about 200. I don't know where the other 100, maybe 200. I don't know where the other 100 went, to be honest.
Bro, I say they should have spent like 150 mil. What did you guys think about Indiana Jones? Did you guys go out and see that? How do you guys feel about the modern state of movies? Let us know down in the comment section below. My name's Ben Adler.
My name's Laquan.
And I'm George.
And we'll see you in the next encounter.
Peace.